Welcome to Doughboys Double. I'm Nick Weiger, along with a spoon man, Mike Mitchell. Mitch, you are up there in Toronto. We are down here in LA as we are continuing Toront-dough, Dough Canada, the Great Bite North, a month-long culinary tour of the six. How you feeling, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, Wags?
Doing all right. We had a little, we recorded the episode, the feedbag episode, which was last week's episode, the polite Canadian feedbag. We took a break. We had a little Mexican food down here. We were all enjoying some burritos. A lot of fun. Susser stuck around.
And then you got caught talking about me on camera. How does that feel?
Busted.
Where you basically said I was lying.
I said that you told me earlier that you didn't want to do the records because Micus was in town. And so when you
That's
said
not why I don't want to do the records. I don't want to do the records in general. I never told you I didn't want to do the records because Micus was in town. I just told you that Micus was in town.
I thought Micus was in town. I thought that's when you said you had an out and you were like all of a sudden like, hey, we got this time pressure.
I said, hey, I have a hard out at 4. And then on camera, you got caught. I was in here in the room. He didn't know it.
It's true.
He said he doesn't have a hard out. And another employee also said he doesn't have a hard out.
It was me. I didn't believe you. Well, it was the first I was hearing of it, so I thought it came out of nowhere really conveniently. I'm not gonna lie, and I also wasn't sure if you meant hard out at 4 or like around 4, gotta get going kind of thing.
No, the cleaning lady is coming at 4 p.m. and it's the last time that she can come.
Mitch, fire me. Do it. Do it, please. Do it.
You're safe for today, Emma.
Damn it.
And always, as long as the podcast goes. Lager, not as much, but
fire me. Go ahead.
Do it.
I would love to. Yes, the cleaning lady's coming to my room at 4 p.m. You piece of shit, fucking asshole. I'm just lying. I want to go drink some suds with Micus. That's what it is.
I don't know. That's what it seemed like. This is the first I'd heard of it.
Okay, it's good to hear how you talk about me when I'm not in the room. Anyways, let's get into the podcast.
This will be a great energy for today. But we have a great guest with us from Fox NFL Sunday, our friend, Toronto's own, Ontario's own, more generally, Norm Sousa is here. Hi, Norm.
Hi, how are you? I do have a heart out. I'm cleaning Mitch's apartment.
I would take a heart out just to get out of here.
Norm, you are from Ontario.
Yeah.
Pronounce the name of the town you are from.
Toronto. Oh, Mississauga.
Mississauga. Is that a separate town?
Yes.
Or is that a neighborhood? Mississauga.
No, it's a suburb of. It's actually it's bigger than most Canadian cities. I think it's the 4th or 5th biggest city in Canada.
Wow, okay. And it's near, my understanding of the geography is it near the airport, the Toronto airport?
Yeah.
Okay.
The airport is kind of in between Mississauga and Brampton.
Got it.
But yeah, I think it's, what would you describe it as? It's like, it's southwest of Toronto. And then if you go east, you start getting into like Scarborough.
Right. I'm kind of almost thinking of like Irvine, California as related to like Los Angeles to some degree. Not as much geographical distance, but the same sort of like still a big city, but not the big city.
Yeah. Well, what would be the LA equivalent of, I don't know.
Long Beach?
Yeah, maybe Long Beach.
Sure.
The end.
Mitch, have you spent any time in Mississauga?
I drove through Mississauga. You know, I think I got a ring light in Mississauga.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, great. Yeah, we are known
I needed
for
to do an audition. Wait, I had to do an audition. We were driving back from Niagara.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to do an audition. I needed a ring light. An audition to play Bubba the Love Sponge.
That's right.
Which I did not get.
Is this a Hogan thing? I hope it's like a Hogan documentary thing, right? What's going on?
It's a Hogan movie.
Oh, okay.
This was supposed to be
Affleck would play Hogan.
Yeah, Affleck was going to play Hogan. I don't remember who was directing it.
I'm sure Paul Walter Hauser got Bubba the Love Sponge.
I'm sure,
Yeah, he would.
Maybe Gad's directing it. Maybe that's the new thing now. It's just Gad and PWH. They just team up on everything.
Wow. What a duo.
Shout out to
Mississauga.
Shout out to Mississauga and Hurricane Hazel. Was the mayor of Toronto forever. Just passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, wow.
But great city. And if you do get a chance to go, you can go to the Square One Mall. which is the least known mall in the world. Yeah, it's Mississauga has just nothing. It's close to the airport, but it's like in the CFL, like Hamilton. It's like you have to go through Mississauga to get to Hamilton. So the Argonauts play the Tiger Cats. It's like the QEW series. The Queen Elizabeth Expressway is the highway that connects those cities, and you have to go through Mississauga to get there.
Wow, Hamilton has its own distinct franchise.
The Hammer.
Yeah.
GAD and PWH on a movie, you better make sure those director's chairs are reinforced.
Okay, so right now you're working.
They're big guys.
They're big dudes.
They're big dudes.
They probably technically both weigh less than me, but I'd make the same joke about myself.
I liked it. So
am I in trouble?
No, you're doing fine.
I'm in trouble after you talked shit about me when I caught you.
Well, that's only a thing that you'd be upset about.
Yeah, well, you'd be upset if I was like, he's lying. You'd be mad at that.
I didn't say you were lying.
You 100% did. You said he doesn't have a heart out.
Yeah, because I mean, this is first off, this was the first I heard of it. The only thing I'd heard is that you wanted to hang out with Micus, who was up there. So I was like,
sure.
She just
I
wants
will
to
see
end the
my
record
friend when he's
early
up
so
here.
that he can hang out with Micus.
I'm going to work out after we record,
all right.
by the way.
Hell yeah. Me too, actually.
This is fine. Everything's fine.
Paul Walter Hauser's
You're
in
the
great
one who was
shape.
caught.
We should make sure, if we're doing these remotes, if Mitch can hear me, we need to make sure we can see his face on the screen.
Oh, cool. Oh, because you're going to talk shit, you
I
fucking
don't
asshole?
know. Hey, look, I wasn't talking shit, but I was conveying my
Talking
side.
shit.
What's that?
Conveying your side?
Yeah, I was conveying my
There's no
side, which is the
sides.
only information I had was that you wanted to hang out with Micus, who was up there. You were talking about, like, hey, you wanted to do the records
keep saying
earlier.
that to try to make it a truth. That's not the reason I have a
don't.
hard out.
I
So
know.
you're just-
I believe you, but I'm just saying that this is like
Okay.
when it's the first I hear of it is that Amelia says, "Hey, Mitch texted that he had a hard out when we're about to record." I'm like, well, the only thing I know is that he, has a friend up there. He wants to hang out with.
So you put two things together, and then you said, I don't have a hard out.
Yeah,
but anyways,
that was my
let's keep going.
assumption. It's the kind of shit you pull.
Good.
It just seems like you were trying to hide the cleaning lady, you know?
Yeah, why are you trying to hide Norm like that?
Norm, you know what? I mean, look, we were going to have a day where we watch football on Hang, though Weiger won't come,
Correct.
most likely.
Yep. Alana's been sending out the open invite for everyone to come over and
Yeah,
watch
she invited
football.
Susser, too. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Sus is going to come?
Apparently.
I'm out. I don't want to go anymore. But now that you see the type of friend Wags is, I don't know if you want him to come anyways.
I'm a good friend.
Great friend.
Look, we should get into beer. I went to the beer store.
I do want to talk about the beer store, but I want to talk more because the CFL came up, and because Norm, you work on Fox NFL Sunday now. You're very, tight in with American football. That's your job.
Correct.
What is the CFL scene like? And when you worked on the Canadian side of sports up there, like what is the CFL fandom like in Toronto and Canada at large?
In Toronto, it's quite bad.
Interesting.
I also don't want to. There are a lot of CFL diehards, so I don't want to offend anybody. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The truth is it's only really popular on the West, and really the only team that has a what's the word? Passionate fan base is the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Okay. Do they play in Regina?
They play in Regina, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm sure there's Calgary Stampeders were a huge team for a long time. The Toronto has, we have the Raptors, we have the Jays, we have the Leafs. So the Argonauts definitely. They did have a championship, legacy. They had Doug Flutie and all that stuff, but
Sure.
it's just never been as popular as it is with teams that only have, like Winnipeg only had the Blue Bombers until they got the Jets. The Rough Riders, there was two teams named the Rough Riders for a while. Ottawa had a team called the Rough Riders, and Saskatchewan had the Rough Riders. But I say, overall, the CFL is it's a niche sport there. Hockey kind of rules everything.
Yeah, sure, I can imagine.
And I don't know if there's a ton of Montreal Alouettes fans, but I do think from
Great name.
The Alouettes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know all the teams,
cool.
right?
It is a cool name.
BC Lions, Edmonton Elks, there's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers,
Okay.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders, Toronto Argonauts, Ottawa Red Blacks, I don't know, and
Hamilton
Hamilton Tiger Cats, And yeah, the Montreal Alouettes. They should add.
It's like a 10-team league. It's not like very.
I think it's 9. I think it's like a weird number.
That is weird.
Hamilton. Those are my people. Hamilton.
Are they the Steel Boys?
I love that. I'm a Steel boy.
The
hard working, the working class steel workers, Wags. That's who I want to. You know what? They'll never talk shit about me on fucking StreamYard.
Wow.
I'm a Nando salad, by the way.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the CFL not very popular in Toronto, but certainly people love it.
Yeah,
it is. I don't know. I think The Rock tried to buy it instead.
The whole league.
Wow. I think before he purchased the XFL because he played for the Stampeders briefly. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's just like a ton of things that I think that the CFL really does a bad job of and could probably do a lot of things better to improve the sport. It should really change. I don't know. People love the 3 downs because it's a 3 down and the wide receivers are in full motion before the snap. So that's why there's so much offense. The ball's bigger. The field's bigger. There's some differences. But what was that, Mitch?
What was his Marvel line when he was doing Black Adam? He's like the power and the.
Well, it's the DC universe. But yes, it was like the balance of power in the DC universe has changed or has shifted, something like that.
It's about to shift. Yeah. He was about to shift the power within the CFL, it sounded like.
Oh, I thought you were quoting from the movie. I'm like, who watched Black Adam enough to like know a line?
No one did. Nothing shifted. Nothing shifted at all.
But yeah, I do have a Toronto Argos hat. I do like to support all Canadian sports, but I think the CFL in general, it's a really declining league. I hope that here we have. Well, I think spring football in general. I know CFL is before, but even the UFL, whatever the situation is now, which I think has a lot of room to grow, and. I think it's closer to a farm system for the NFL. Really, right. I think that's what it is. It's like, is the UFL going to be the farm system for the NFL or is the CFL? The CFL has better players, I think, because there's probably more money.
Sure.
But I don't know if I think if people like offense and you can go and find a CFL game on CBS Sports Network here, maybe.
Yeah, no idea.
No idea. You might watch it and be like, this is a blast. It's a ton of offense. They're just throwing the ball and, it's a lot of fun. But I don't know if it really translates to an American audience.
Do you, like, Mitch, this is, you and Norm both know football better than me, but 3 downs doesn't seem like enough downs. That's my issue.
Right. Yeah, but when the receivers are in full motion before the snap, right, they're kind of going full speed. So
they can run towards the line of scrimmage, which is not allowed in the NFL.
Yeah, you just can't. Yeah, the receivers in the NFL can't be in motion.
Yeah.
So the ball gets snapped and then they can run. In the CFL, they're already running full speed. So the ball gets snapped as long as it gets snapped before they cross the line.
Yeah.
And then they're already running and the defense has to catch up.
Right.
So that's why there's so much more offense. And then the throw is such a threat that when you do run the ball, people are like spread out for a throw defense, and then the run just, So I think it is the 3 downs encourages more throwing offense.
Interesting, but are we seeing punts on 3rd down? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, wow. You do. Yeah, totally. I think correct. I don't know if it's still the rule, but if you punt and the ball goes through the end zone, it's called a rouge. You get 1 point.
No, we don't have that.
We don't have the
We
rouge.
do not have that. That's wild.
Well, and also
that's kind of fun. I'm surprised that they haven't taken that.
The field goal posts are at the front of the end zone, so like you can throw the ball and hit the upright.
Oh, so it has to be punted through the field goal?
I think it has to go through the back of the end zone. Yeah.
Do you remember that weird?
Oh, just through the back. See, through the back of the end zone, the punters are so good that I feel like people will be grabbing points all the time. But if you had to punt it through the upright through a field goal,
no, that's not true. I don't think that's the case. No.
But I'm saying that would be good for a point if you punted it through the uprights.
Yeah, that would be cool. That should be like a lot of points because that's really far.
It changes the calculation though, because like in the NFL, you're trying in American college football, you're trying to get the ball, downed, but before going in the end zone. But if you can blast it out of the back of the end zone, it's just like, well, I'll just do full power.
Is it? It's got to be. It can't be a missed field goal goes through. I think it's the punt.
Okay, interesting.
I got to look that up.
Yeah. Is there here's a question for you. Do y'all remember, you'll sometimes see it in like the like NFL films footage from like the 70s. There was that period when the goalposts were in the center of the end zone in the NFL. Do you remember that? They had pads on them. It was really weird.
Yeah.
It's a really weird era. But apparently that, because there's the post route.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I believe that was because you would route yourself towards the goalpost, which would make the defender, you could create separation there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
There's the CFL. It's kind of dumb.
So you're not like an Argonauts fan, or you are, but like you're not like an ardent Argonauts follower.
I was in town 2 summers ago, and we bought tickets like the second row at like the 20-yard line.
Yeah,
and me and Alana went, and we had a blast. It was a lot of fun. They have, I think his name is Chip Kelly. It's Jim Kelly's nephew is the quarterback.
Wow.
Yeah, and he got in some trouble. And I think he's on like a last chance contract at the CFL, but he went in last year for the Argos, and after like 3 games, he got the start, and they went undefeated until he got hurt.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how I haven't been keeping up this year because I'm always like entrenched in NFL football. But right. I watch the Grey Cup every year.
What is the Grey Cup? Is like their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Have you switched? Are you now an NFL guy? Like, is that more so what you would consider yourself? Are you?
Oh, I would never have considered myself a CFL guy. Absolutely not. No. In the sport and the team that is the Dallas Cowboys equivalent that leads Sports Center every night is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hockey is number 1, and it's not even close.
I saw them lose their first game. I was having a beer, a snake bite, a Guinness and a cider.
Nice,
fun
with Samoa Joe at some bar. You probably will know the bar, so I should just say it. But we were watching the Leafs lose their first game.
Well, name the bar,
which I guess is. I'm gonna tell you fucking right. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Can I guess it? What part of town are you in?
We were near Maddie's Patties. Do you know where Maddie's Patties are?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Oh, Maddie's Pub or whatever?
Yeah. I can tell you what part of town, because I actually see it here. It's
nothing more compelling than Mitch zooming in on maps, the Maps app.
I know the name of the bar, so I do at least have the name of the bar.
Is it the Wheat Chief? No, that's in the okay. No, let's not play the guessing game.
Dog's Bollocks.
Oh, Dog's Bollocks.
Dog's Bollocks. That's fun.
Dog's Bollocks.
On Queen Street, yeah.
Jimmy didn't care for that.
Nope.
Which Wags, I showed you that it was like ball sack coffee. Remember I showed you the
Balzac.
And speaking of crunches,
yeah, that was Balzac.
Balzac.
Like a guy.
Toronto Public Library.
This coffee still
not like Balzac Sports. It's not like a parody thing. It's like there was a guy.
I know,
named
but I'm
Balzac.
saying it does
sound
bad.
like Balzac. Yeah.
Yeah.
But last night, speaking of the crunches that happen in the NFL, Wags, last night I went on a recommendation from you because you're my friend. I never talk behind your back. Actually, I do all the time. I went on your recommendation. I went to A&W.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, real good.
And Norm, I got the Teen Crunch Burger.
Which I have not had. That's a teen burger with chips in it.
Yes, this is a limited menu item. I get the Crunch Buddy burger. The Crunch Buddy does not have bacon. The Teen Crunch has bacon. But it's got the sour cream and cheddar ruffles on it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. You would think there'd be an all dressed or a ketchup chip or something. It's not a distinctly Canadian chip, but it's still good.
I gotta say this, Wags, you were right. It was fantastic.
Real good.
A really good burger. And Norm, I wonder what your thoughts are on it. But I'm like, A&W just is maybe it's the best fast food chain in Canada, right? Like it's gotta be.
Yeah, I mean, I like Wendy's, and I think there's a distinct difference between the Canadian and American Wendy's.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a Wendy's guy first, but and my favorite burger at Wendy's is the limited time bacon mushroom melt. But what frustrates me about A&W, it's they have the Mama burger, the Papa burger.
Yeah.
They have like the Teen burger.
Yeah. Uncle burger sometimes.
Yeah. And then it just says hot dog. It's like, how do you not write just like the family dog, or like
that's
Rex
really good.
Yeah.
It should be family dog.
Should be something like that.
It should.
A great note.
Yeah. But
It's a great note.
what was really popular for a long time, which was the go-to quasi fast food burger, was Lick's Burger in Toronto. But
I'm not familiar with Licks.
it was one of Toronto has a real problem of not being able to have nice things because the second something gets popular, it gets expanded and it gets ruined. And Licks is a prime example of that. Licks was like the burger spot, and it was the place to go. And then all of a sudden there was like 20 Licks, and you're like, these aren't as good as they used to be. And there's a couple of
expansion
situations
thing,
like that.
yeah.
That's like a problem with with chains in general, but it's interesting that it seems to happen specifically more in Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know why. Because I'm sure you've been getting that a lot.
Oh, we see it all the time. I mean, the one we were just talking about, and Mitch, our buddy Dave Schilling, who was, back in the day, we did our episode about the halal guys, which was a New York City sensation that partnered with his company Fransport.
Dave Schilling, he was a WWE writer, right?
Yeah. He's also a sporto. It expanded nationwide, and it just the quality has just dipped. And Schilling was saying it's gotten even worse since we reviewed it.
Oh no,
which is a bummer. But it's like that you see that pattern. It's just like it's kind of honestly surprising that Dave's Hot Chicken, which scaled up so quickly, has still managed to maintain a pretty decent level of quality.
Yeah. It's like it's like on TikTok and shit. People are like, this new hot chicken place I went to. I gotta say, A&W, look, I feel the same way about A&W as I feel about the CFL. I'm like happy it's happening up here. I don't really know it's happening up here, and I like that it's happening up here. Like I like that the CFL is played and there's a Super Bowl version of it, and I don't ever hear much of it throughout the year. And I'm happy that A&W's up here, Wags, and it's good, because down in the States, it's not good.
No, it's the A&W America, which we mentioned before. It's a brand schism. It's a completely separate company.
Oh, I've never seen an A&W here.
You'll see them. They're not in LA proper. No. There's some in rural California.
Oh.
One I used to go to at summer camp all the time. But anyway, it's still good, but it's not even close to the level of A&W Canada.
Well, I think what happened was Harvey's.
Some of them actually are bad.
Harvey's was so great.
Yeah.
And A&W was an afterthought. And Harvey's was like, obviously you guys did a Harvey's episode,
we
correct?
Did.
And that you go there, they dress the burger for you. You could see it being grilled in the back. They used to have a burger called the Big Harv, which was like delicious. And they did frings, right? The fry onion ring combo thing. And it was just like, you wouldn't even question that Harvey's is just no doubt better than A&W. I don't think it was a expansion situation with Harvey's. It was a new ownership situation, which just turned into a decline. And now I'm sure people still like Harvey's because they either don't remember the old Harvey's or how it used to be, but it's not as good as it used to be. I still would say, how did you, has Harvey's come out yet?
Yeah, we did this. Oh. So as of this recording, the Harvey's episode with Sean Diston has just come out. Okay. We recorded a Swiss Chalet episode with Atlanta that is coming out. Well, actually, that will have just come out by the time your episode is released on the Beer Store. And I will say that we enjoyed Harvey's, definitely had a much better experience at Swiss Chalet. Yes. And Swiss Chalet felt more distinct and like this is its own thing, whereas Harvey's is like, oh yeah, this is like a good local burger spot, but we've been to a bunch of these.
Yeah, I could see that.
We went to we believe, and excuse my language.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's a term people don't use anymore, but I think we went to the Hooker Harvey's.
They call it the Hooker Harvey's, yes.
The one on Church Street?
Harvey's,
yeah.
We didn't Hooker Harvey's. We didn't know.
We didn't know. We
or
just went
Jarvis
in there.
And something, right?
Yeah.
But Wags, you did say that it would explain why we were sucking a bunch of people off in the bathroom.
Yeah, explains why we sucked off all those guys. Honestly, we should have asked for some money. In hindsight. But yeah, funny. There was nothing distinct about it from our just we knew its reputation, but like as far as its interior exterior, it just looked like a regular Harvey's.
Yeah, and I guess like the big thing that was the difference at the time is they made the burger in front of you. You just told them what to put on it. And I guess A&W, I mean, I'm assuming it's just like a McDonald's, but it's just better. The burgers taste better.
It's just a really good quality. And that tall, frosty mug of root beer is really just such a
Here's the thing. I went
coup de grace.
I was shooting yesterday. I filmed all day yesterday, and then I finally walked over there. It was like close to midnight even when I walked over there, but I was starving. And I got a root beer. They just put it in a little paper cup, and I saw all the mugs in the fridge behind them. I was like, fuck, I want the fucking mug. The mug is so good. But the fries I thought were pretty good. I got a chicken buddy too. And I was kind of grossed out because I bit into the chicken buddy and there was like a vein. And then I was like, well, in America, you don't, that probably won't happen.
Yeah, you won't.
It's,
No, yeah.
It's not real chicken.
It's like probably a sign of, it's probably a good sign.
Yeah, it's ground into
grosses
pink
me out a little
goo
bit.
that's reconstituted.
But the chicken buddy was pretty good too. Good chicken sandwich.
Yeah, they know what they're doing over there. A&W is just not like it definitely has catapulted above Harvey's and probably is the best burger chain in Canada.
It feels like the distinctly, like the Canadian, like the best fast food chain, the ideal of the Canadian fast food chain to me.
Yeah.
As an outsider, I do want to ask you about something else Canadian before we get into the beer
just gonna
story.
say I shouldn't have gone. I felt like shit since Doughboys came to town. It just the balance of in my gut has shifted since the Doughboys fucking came to town.
We had a lot of very heavy eating in a concentrated
in a short
stretch.
amount of time.
And then we were just like talking about shitty food a bunch, which made me get more shitty food when I got back to LA myself. So that's another issue.
And Mitch is also saying when the Doughboys came to town as if he's not one half of, you're blaming yourself here.
It is our fault. It is our fault. But I mean, Wags, I'm sad I'm missing some of the promotions I told you that are down there now. So I'm back on the fast food, it sounds like. But go ahead, go on with your question.
I wanted to ask about because we talked some, Mitch had sent me a Gordon Lightfoot playlist. I sent over a Rush playlist. We were talking about this in our chat with Alana. You brought up a Canadian band, which to me is like the band that I always heard about that had no real penetration in the U.S., but is huge in Canada, like the biggest Canadian only group north of the border. That is the Tragically Hip. You were a Tragically Hip guy.
Well, here's the thing with the Tragically Hip.
Yeah.
I love the music, and I think Gord Downie was a genius. And
R.I.P.
The thing about the Tragically Hip is I absolutely despise the fans.
Oh, wow.
I find them to be very obnoxious. It's not quite like Fish, or something like that, but there's Tragically Hip loyalists that will talk you down, that'll just like give you they're just know-it-alls, and it can be very irritating to talk music with a Tragically Hip guy.
Yeah.
But it is by far the number one band, and I think the last concert is on a streaming service here somewhere, but it is funny that I think part of their popularity is that they never broke here.
They like that. They like the sense of ownership.
I think so, because like the Bare Naked Ladies came down here, and they're a little more pop and light, but they had a lot of hits in Canada before they went and kind of made it big with they did the Big Bang Theory. Sound
pretty successful in the U.S.
Yeah. And there's of course been other bands that attempted it. I mean, I mentioned Sloan, which is like more of an indie kind of version, but also a band that never really broke out here. And I'm not sure why that is. I think it's like a marketing thing. I think it happens with comedians who come down here too. Who come to the States and try not to. They don't really adjust. What, like a prime example is there's a Canadian musician named Sam Roberts who I really, really like, and he came and played Letterman, and the song that they chose to do on Letterman was just like it was the first hit in Canada, and it's just the wrong song to introduce yourself to the U.S. audience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not like a music executive, but with the Tragically Hip, I mean the lyrics and the songs themselves are very poetic and beautiful and about Canada. So a lot of them are.
Right.
So I could see why it didn't translate here, but I also think it's like really nice that Canada has a band that is like exclusively theirs. There's like other bands that are of that same generation. Blue Rodeo is another example of a band that's like in that era. And then a little after, it's like Our Lady Peace was a huge Canadian band, and they kind of broke down here too.
I liked Our Lady Peace quite a bit when I was younger. And when I got to Canada, one of the first day, literally maybe the first day I was here for the long haul, I was outside the Rogers Center and they were playing Our Lady Peace.
Yeah.
And this, what was it? Not Superman's Dead, but the other big hit. It's
5 a.m. Clumsy. They
were playing Clumsy. I like making fun of the Tragically Hip just because, look.
Well, the fans, it drives them crazy.
It makes Canadians mad, and that's what I've been trying to do for a while. But also, look, fans and listeners of stuff are oftentimes annoying, Wags, don't you think?
Yeah, it's true. No, I would. You're talking about.
What are you implying? But there's We Kings and Bob Cajun and Head by a Century. These they also have a ton of like rocking songs, Tragically Hip. So like they do have a broad spectrum and there's a bunch of different style songs that they have like tearjerkers and emotional and poetic songs, and they also have some really rocking tracks. So the Tragically Hip is like a Canadian institution that I think a lot of Canadians take pride that they are like hometown boys.
Right. Is the comedy equivalent? Is that like because you mentioned comedians? Is Russell Peters Canadian?
He's Canadian, yeah.
Because I feel like Russell Peters is a guy who's like very popular in Canada and then has less of a. I don't know if he's as big of a touring act in the States.
Yeah, I don't want to speak to too much about I don't know Russell that well.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think it's safe to say that he became more of an international hit than he became a U.S. hit. Like I think he became more popular international before he became popular in Canada.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, because he was playing like big venues in I'm sure I'll be corrected in like South Africa and Asia, and then he'd come and play like a small club in Toronto. What happened was he did a taping for a show that was really popular. Well, I don't know if it was really popular. I don't have the ratings, but there was a show in Canada called it was called like. It was like comedy something or other.
It was like kind of like
Comedy Now.
Okay, so like kind of like a talent showcase sort of thing.
Yeah, they'd give comics a half an hour,
right,
and put it on TV. But his Comedy Now was put on YouTube in the early days of YouTube, and it became a huge hit. And then DVD sales of that special kind of exploded. And I think that's really what. And I think in the U.S. there's a lot of international people who live here. It's a very multicultural country, and I think he really speaks to like the multiculturalism.
Right.
As you probably saw in Toronto, is very multicultural.
Oh, 100%.
Which is what made him such a huge success there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned, because we were talking about the Rogers Center earlier. Yeah, go on, Mitch.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think I'm a fan of stuff that is always they're always like Dave Matthews Band has annoying fans, and I think it's just that Pink Floyd has annoying fans. It's always annoying fans and everything.
Yeah.
You shouldn't judge the band or the whatever it is based on the annoying
whatever
fans.
Audio the thing you're listening to. You should not judge it based off of its fans. Mm-hmm. Doesn't necessarily speak to the people creating it. Sometimes
unless you're listening to unless you're having some clandestine audio that you're listening to of your co-host. I was sitting in there for 10 minutes waiting for you to come back from lunch, Mr. Prompt. Anyways, Wags, what were you going to say about the Rogers Center? Because I wanted to get into...
We got to talk about the beer store. Just real quick. So we were at the Rogers Center. Alana took us on a walking tour of Toronto with Mars. And so it was us, and then we had... I was there, Emma was there, and Amelia was there. As part of it, we walked by the Rogers Center. At the time, Billie Eilish was in town.
Oh.
And it like the show was that night, but people were like, we were there early and people were already camped out. And like some of them had clearly been staying there overnight. Alana, of course, was like talking to everyone in the line. But it was like, I was like crazy how many people had swarmed this venue for Billie Eilish later that night. The other thing, and this is crazy, I went up and I talked to one of the security guards and I was like, what's going on here? And he pulled me aside and he said, thing is, this show is a trap.
It
was a trap.
Billie Eilish was helping them trap.
Yeah, she was helping to trap somebody.
Wow. And then when she caught him, she went, "You're the bad guy." It sucks.
I love that we're just referencing movies that I am not watching.
Wags, I want to quickly just go through your playlist quickly because look, people were like, Mitch doesn't know Rush because of your weird. Because Weiger said his roast was today's Tom Sawyer or some shit.
That might be on an episode that isn't out yet. But also we had
that was the Sean Distin episode.
Oh, that was the Sean Distin episode. There's today's
and
Tom
people
Sawyer.
Thought I didn't get. I know Tom Sawyer the song, and in fact, I knew half your playlist. Well, thanks for once. It was The Spirit of the Radio, Tom Sawyer, Stick It Out, Closer to the Heart, YYZ, Subdivisions, Limelight, Time Stands Still, Free Will, Roll the Bones, La Via, Strangiato,
yeah.
Strangiato, and Jacob's Ladder, The only ones I didn't know were Spit It Out, YYZ, which is a big one. I don't know why it's a blind spot for me.
It's an instrumental.
Time Stand Still, Roll the Bones, though I feel like I've heard that referenced. La Via, Strangiato, and Jacob's Ladder. Those are the only 6 I didn't know. I knew every other song.
Yeah, there was some, I called it a starter pack, a Rush starter pack. So there were a lot of here's some Rush 101, like big songs that you probably do know, but it was an attempt to be comprehensive.
So I'm not a Tragically Hip head. I do love the Tragically Hip, but should I make you a Canadian rock playlist?
I would love that.
Or just a hip.
I mean, like either or.
Okay, I'll work on something for you.
I love it.
Yeah, get us something good. Can I give you my thoughts on the songs that I didn't know quickly?
Yeah, please.
Yep.
Spit It Out sounds like a fake song from a 90s movie, and I thought it was the only bad song.
Wow.
It sounded like if the Airheads, if you told me that the Airheads sang Spit It Out, I would have believed it. It sounded like it's just such.
Yeah, it's the song is Stick It Out, but the Spit It Out is one thing they say in the chorus. But yeah,
it was a later track that came in the 90s. It was like not in their prime.
I'll say why I included that. First, I wanted to include something that was like I tried to span the length of their discography a little bit. But the other thing is that was like because it was one of their heavier songs.
Oh yeah,
and I was really into metal at the time. That's the song that like first got me into Rush. I got the album Counterparts because of that. I was like, okay, and then I led to some of their other songs as a result.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's like it sounds like Rush. It's kind of proggy, but it's also like heavy. It's
and
got
the
like
video
a
was
more,
cool.
and the video was very cool. Yeah.
It is scary and moody. It does start scary and moody, but I just thought it was like so 90s and kind of like nothing. I thought YYZ rocked, and like I said,
Great
I don't
song.
know as a blind spot. Time Stand Still. I liked the duet with the female singer there.
It's Amy Mann, a young Amy Mann.
Wow.
Wait, you don't have Fly By Night on here.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
This is the thing. Like, I was like, I didn't want to make it an unmanageable length. So, like, I
got you.
Some of the stuff. Yeah, I probably should add something from Fly By Night.
Roll the Bones. Like I said, I think I've heard people reference it or just say "Roll the Bones."
Yeah, it's like it's an expression.
So the listeners aren't going to know that, like, I do want Alana to just listen to this specific part of the podcast because we have been texting about Rush for 2 days in a row at night. It's like she goes to bed and we're immediately like, perfect, let's talk about Geddy Lee. She fucking hates it.
And then I ask you to rank Toronto fast food pizza chains, and Norm has been Norm. It's been fun. It's been a fun chain.
Honestly, let's keep it going.
Sorry, Alana. Roll the Bones. I like that. The Jack relax moment is really wild in that song.
Yeah, it kind of has some I like the song overall. It does have kind of like some cringy sort of early rap rock sort of stuff to it. But it's I think it's a cool track with a cool chorus.
So do you guys know Tragically Hip at all?
No, I don't at all.
Oh, and Mitch.
No, I don't. I listened to him because I heard Canadians talking about him, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, like, what? I should listen. I want to hear your playlist.
I'll make a playlist for you. Okay, cool.
The last two are good. Jacob's Ladder and La Via.
Yeah, great.
Strangiato, which has a Looney Tunes moment in it.
It does, yeah.
The last Via Strangiato or whatever it's like an instrumental, right? And then there's a Looney Tunes breakdown at one point.
Yeah.
And then I liked both of them. They were good. They were good songs.
Yeah.
Those guys are huge dorks, it seems like. Norm, I think
That's
you
part of
said
what's fun
that.
about it.
What did I say?
Norm, I believe you said that they are just like dorks.
Yeah, they're like, it's like if Zeppelin did all those tracks about like those Tolkien books.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings and whatever.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings and stuff. It's like, imagine Supertramp did that and we're Canadian.
Yeah.
Is how you would describe Rush,
That's perfect.
It's very much nerd rock.
One thing I wanted to say, because you did bring up, it's not Rogers Centre, but Scotiabank Place where the Leafs play.
Yes.
When they score a goal, they play a Hall & Oates song. I forget what song I forget what it's the popular like Hall & Oates song when they score a goal.
Okay.
And it absolutely frustrates me to no end because I feel like when they score a goal, the band should be a Canadian band.
Right. I agree.
And there's a Sloan song called Money City Maniacs, which I just like. If you're from Toronto and you're listening, we should do a campaign to change the song to a Canadian song, and we should make that song Money City Maniacs by Sloan.
I love that pitch. There's the inverse of that is Sean in the Discord, I believe it was Sean Mitch, pointed out that during Bruins games, And I don't know if you've ever experienced this at a Bruins game IRL, but at Bruins games, I guess at the first stoppage, the organist plays a Rush song, either Spirit of Radio or what was the other one? It was either Spirit of Radio or Subdivisions.
All the songs that I knew by Rush that were on the other 6, basically, I loved all of them. The 6, also a name for Toronto.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yep.
And we found out right before the recording, the dot.
Yeah, because it's T-dot.
T-dot, but you can kind of call it just the dot.
There's a rapper.
Norm, I need your help. How do you say Toronto? They got mad at me for saying Toronto wrong.
Yeah, because you're saying the T. It's Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah. They reference that in the movie Argo, directed by Ben Affleck, when they're trying to disguise themselves as a Canadian film crew, and they make a specific point to say it has to be Toronto. You don't say the T if you're from there.
I don't remember that at all, and I've seen Argo.
I love that we're just talking about movies that nobody likes or watches. Black Adam, Argo, and
Argo different from Fargo. Yeah.
Argo.
What was the other one we were talking about? Oh, Trap. Trap was good. Look, I like Trap. Maybe I like Trap the most out of all of those.
I liked Argo probably the best, but
well, Argo, fuck yourself.
Argo, fuck yourself, as they say.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
Wags, I made you a Gordon Lightfoot playlist. We don't have to get into it, but it was Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald Canadian Railroad Trilogy.
Yes.
Early Morning Rain, which, Norm, I think is your song,
but
right?
You do know that there's an album called Gord's Gold, and
I just named it the same thing.
You could have just sent the album over.
I could have. I used almost every song from the album. Sundown, Carefree Highway,
just on the
Beautiful.
Album. It's not a playlist if you just put the songs on the album and call it the same thing.
It's Gord's Gold is like that's like his greatest hits.
You added Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, right? That one's not on Gord's Gold. So that's a track that's a personal favorite of mine. That's maybe the song of his I know the best. I really like, I know the song Sundown, but it was great to hear it again. What was after Sundown? Because that was the one that was new to me.
Carefree Highway, Beautiful, Steel Rail Blues, and If You Could Read My Mind.
Carefree Highway, I really liked. That was a new one to me. I also like anything about the Canadian Railroad. Like, it's just like this, again, it's just like a guy. Because the thing I like about Gordon Lightfoot is his songs are either about like the Canadian infrastructure, or they're about like drinking because you're lonely. And those are both things like I really can relate to. And that's so
the Bugmain story I told you where Bugmain met Gordon Lightfoot. Norm, you'll like this. He was like, hey, Gord, when you sing about those songs, like about those women in your songs, do you ever think about them? And he goes, every time.
I performed at Massey Hall one time. It was like they did a New Year's Eve show.
Yeah.
It was a comedy show, and my sketch group performed on whatever, and we were like in the green room, and I was just, there's like pictures of Gordon Lightfoot there, and I was like, wow, like Gordon Lightfoot pissed in this toilet, I'm
jacked off into it.
I am shocked that the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is not on Gord's Gold. Like, how is that possible?
Maybe it's a licensing thing. Maybe it was a different label or something.
Oh,
I
maybe.
wonder.
I did talk about how much I love the song Early Morning Rain, and I love Carefree Highway.
Song.
Yeah.
Wonderful songs. Killer songs. And we did talk about the band. That's another like controversial thing, whether the band is a Canadian band or if it's not.
Wow.
So I don't know. I consider them Canadian because Robbie Robertson's Canadian. So.
Yes. And he's like the central of their
songs.
identity.
Oh my God, so many hits.
So we watched
Norm. Also, I want to say this: just that you went into you were in a room a place where Gordon Lightfoot played. I went to the Comedy Bar.
Yes,
and this guy's picture is all over the place.
That's right.
Norm is all over. All over the Comedy Bar.
I was seeing pics from the green room of Norm in the Comedy Bar, which is where we also saw Alana's improv show earlier that week.
The that venue, the group that was called the Sketchersons, and the guy who used to produce that show, basically we needed to find a venue, and when he built that place, I took over running that group. So we were the first kind of group. That venue exists because of that sketch comedy group.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's why that cast, our photos are around there because that was the inaugural cast in that space.
Cool space. That's also where Hanford did his stand-up, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
All right, we got to talk about the
Great
beer
show.
store. So a little bit of context, because like pretty much all Americans, the beer store is foreign to me. But so the United States, if you're an American, you may not know that there was a temperance movement in Canada that led to prohibition in the early 20th century. The same thing that happened in the U.S. However, unlike the U.S., where there was a nationwide constitutional amendment that banned it everywhere, it was on a provincial basis. So different provinces had different laws, and that informed what today's alcohol regulation is like. So by the First World War, all provinces had outlawed alcohol. They just one by one, they'd all knocked it out. And then they began repealing it one by one. Quebec was first in 1920. Ontario, where Toronto is, was 1927. And then Prince Edward Island was the last holdout, which did not repeal prohibition until 1948.
Wow.
After prohibition ends in Ontario, the province began controlling alcohol sales, and that led to the beer store. And the beer store is heavily regulated by the government, but is owned by breweries.
Yeah, at the time it was called Brewers Retail.
Brewers Retail becomes the beer store. And the other thing that exists in Ontario is LCBO, or Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which is government owned and operated, correct?
Correct.
And that's where you can buy wine and spirits. Norm, we want to talk about you with this because you have intimate knowledge of the beer store, because you worked at the beer store.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I worked at the beer store when I was 18, not even legal to buy beer.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked there from
What is it, 19?
19, correct. Yeah, so I was able to sell beer but not buy it. So I started in, 2000, the year 2000. Worked there until 20... Yeah, maybe longer than 10 years. Might have been 11 or 12 years. I had obviously once, it was a great job to, continue doing start my comedy career. But I was there for a long time before comedy was even an idea. So
the first, this was just a job for you. It turned into your day job that you were doing while you were pursuing other things.
Yeah, and it was perceived as a pretty good union job.
Sure.
I mean, if you were a full-time employee and, it paid a little better, and there was room to become a union kind of guy and make some bucks. It was obviously a much, much better job before. But
right.
For those of you who have no idea what it is it's the Ontario had not changed the liquor laws since Prohibition. So essentially the Liquor Control Board of Ontario was all the hard liquor, and they just to make sure that everything was kind of regular. I think the main reason for the LCBO and the beer store is the government takes a lot of tax.
Yes.
It's 50% tax on alcohol. So a case of Heineken here is $25, and a case of Heineken in Canada is $60.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably because the healthcare is paid for. So if you drink yourself into a stupor, they got it covered.
Yeah. Good trade-off.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd been there for a long time. I started working in Mississauga on a bunch of different locations. I worked at the Port Credit location for a lot of years. Then I moved to Highway 10, and I was part of the brew crew.
Okay.
So when they would open
Wow.
new beer stores, I would go and do the whole shebang, whatever. Then I left for a period of time and got into comedy and acting. I was doing commercials, and then I, as someone who works in the entertainment business in Canada, you run out of money and need to go back to a gig. So I went back and worked at the store at DuPont and Bathurst downtown, which was just a kegs and cases store. So just 2 4s and kegs. And 2 4s is 24 case of beer.
Got it. I like that lingo, though.
Yeah.
2-4.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But there's a holiday, Victoria Day weekend. It's the May 2-4 weekend.
Oh, there you go.
Which is a lot of fun, too. What else? Yeah, I worked there when I was super young. I was 18 years old, and was
Was this your first real full-time job?
No, I worked at Canadian Tire.
Okay.
Which is the 2 most Canadian jobs you can have.
That's very Canadian.
I started working at Canadian Tire when I was 15 years old. And my older brother worked there. So by the time I went to the beer store when I was 18, I already knew how to drive a forklift.
Wow.
So I was working.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So I was not that it was a pump hand truck at the beer store, but in Canadian Tire I was driving a full forklift when I was 16 years old. So yeah, I worked there at Canadian Tire for a while. Moved down the street to the beer store, and because I finished high school and didn't really have a plan.
Sure.
So I was working at the beer store, and everyone was like kind of okay with me just doing that for a while to make some cash. And then it got to a point where I'm like, well, I'm like slowly becoming an alcoholic. Maybe I should go to college. And so then I went to school and kind of that's how I got into the entertainment business. But
that's what I was going to ask you, because like obviously
that's funny that you became an alcoholic and then you decided to go to college. That's funny.
I honestly did not drink in college at all. Didn't smoke pot or drink really in college all that much. I was very depressed. But I was a key holder at the beer store when I was like 19 or 20. So I would open the store and close the store. And,
oh, man.
And count the money and do the safe and all that jazz. Yeah. And then it got to a point where I was still working. I was going to Humber College, which is like a comedy and theater program. And I went down to just doing the Molson truck. Molson would come and deliver a truck Sunday at like 3 a.m. So I would just show up from the bar at like 5 a.m. And
oh my God.
And like in dress clothes.
Yeah.
I would just unload the Molson truck, put the empties back on. Oh yeah, that's another thing we should talk about, the beer store, the empties.
Yes, the empties is a whole thing.
Is a whole thing. It's like 50% of the whole building. But then I would unload and load, and then you do a thing called you like fill the box, which is like the whole back of the beer store is a freezer. So you'd like load the beer in the back, and that store at the time had rollers. So they were displayed. But when I first started there was no beer displayed. It was like in Canada there was a thing called consumers distributing, where they'd send you a catalog and you'd like look at the catalog, you'd write the number down, then you'd go to a desk and you'd say you wanted that number, and it would come out on a roller, and that would be
we saw that in Strange Brew. This is kind of why we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like a retail with shelves in Strange Brew. It's like they go to a kiosk and then they bring it out what you order.
Which made a ton of sense when there used to be like 6 beers.
Yeah.
It was Labatt Blue, Molson Canadian, Black Label, Carling Black Label, Red Cap. Like that's about it.
Yeah. Maybe a couple American
Pabst.
macro brews.
No, we didn't have Pabst.
Wow.
No.
So I went with Sparky. After we wrapped on set yesterday, I said, Sparky, will you take me to the beer store? And I'll buy you a six. I said I'll buy you a 6-pack if you take me to the beer store.
This is the driver.
He was down
Sparky.
to do it no matter.
Yeah.
Sparky's the man. He's the transpo driver. He's the man. We went to the beer store together. He gave me some great history on the beer store. And you know what? It would be nice to work there in the summertime, because basically, Norm, like you were saying, you're basically just in a fridge if you're in the back. Mm-hmm. Like when you walk through, you're just basically in a giant fridge.
Yeah, but what sucks with that is it's so cold, and you're putting your hand through cardboard that your hand would get dry and hack up and bleed. Like it was pretty bad. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
We went to the Billy Bishop Way one, which is near the studio.
Yep.
I'm gonna crack open a beer here. I think nothing better to start with than an Arizona iced tea, the Glaze.
Oh no!
Wow.
To represent Canada, a hard Arizona iced tea. Sparky told me that the ones I had to get were Labatt, and he said Molson X. Norm, that's the one he said.
Yep. That's the ale.
I couldn't get a Molson X can, but I did get a Molson Canadian, and I got a Pabst, and I got a Labatt, and then a couple other. There was some local. There was like a. There was a what's it called? A Hamilton local beer, and like I love the people of Hamilton. I'm like a working class guy like them, and I just kind of relate to them in that way. So I wanted to get it, but I couldn't find it. But Sparky got himself. I don't know if you know these, Norm, but Mill Street.
Yeah, Mill Street
original. He got a 6-pack of Mill Street, which he growled at. He picked it up and he went, "This one's mine." That's what he did.
Yeah, Mill Street organic, but Mill Street's great because the brewery itself is like in the downtown area. There's like it's in the distillery district. So if you go to the distillery district, Mill Street Brewery is there.
So there's like in America, there's a Canadian microbrewing scene that's pretty big. At this point.
Totally. Yeah, and there, a lot of them got bought out. So I don't know who owns Mill Street now, but like Creemore was like one of these first kind of like independent, only sold 8-pack half-liter bottles until Molson bought them and then changed the bottle, put it in a 12-pack, and
Sparky said that the small bottles were like a Canadian thing, and like the Red Stripe bottles, which I guess
Stubby.
Red Stripe uses Canadian. The
Stubby.
Stubbies.
Yeah.
The Stubby.
Yeah, so like Stubbies, it's like red cap and then Molson.
What are you thinking, Wags, you piece of
What?
shit? I saw your smile.
We're talking about your dick.
I got a Stubby or some shit.
Yeah.
Not a hold of Stubby. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, you're going to Ballsack and ordering a Stubby. Like, this is a coffee shop. What are you doing here? Well, it's like because Labatt and Anheuser-Busch made an agreement. Also, we should point out that like the beer store is owned by Molson, Labatt, and Sleeman, and the founders of those companies are all named John. John
Wow.
Labatt, John Molson, and John Sleeman.
Wow.
Wow.
Isn't that bizarre?
That is weird.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
just
that.
a 3-pack of Johns just getting beer. But Anheuser-Busch and Labatt had this like handshake agreement that they would only ever sell their beer in a brown twist bottle. So like the bottle changed basically because Anheuser-Busch gave a handshake deal to John Labatt to sell Budweiser. And
Wow.
and that bottle needed to stay the same and consistent. So there's a handshake deal between Anheuser-Busch and Labatt that the bottle cannot change. So when they introduced Bud Light Lime to the Canadian market, they weren't allowed to get it. They had to ship it from the UK. So like the US would ship it to England and then it would go to Canada because we couldn't get a non-brown bottle from Anheuser-Busch because of this deal.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. By the way, Sparky was really excited about he when we were on the way out, he was like, "What is this? Molson Cold Shot." And it was a beer that had 6% alcohol. And
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, I got to try it." So he also got himself a Molson Cold Shot. He was very excited that it was 6%.
Why is that? I don't understand the compulsion about the higher alcohol being like better.
You might know more than this. Elena was telling us that Canadian beer tends to be more alcoholic than American beer inherently.
Yeah, there's a small little difference, and it's a metric system thing.
Oh, okay.
We measure alcohol by volume, and the Americans measure alcohol by weight. So like a 5% beer, it's like American beer that comes to Canada is technically like 4.78 or something.
Oh, okay.
Got
It's
it.
a small
It's 5%.
difference.
It's the same. If anyone's like, I really feel the difference of this 0.25, it's like absolutely not true. It's the main difference is the water. We use Canadian water, and it's just like bagels, I guess. I mean, it's all about the water. All right, here's the thing. I tried to buy a 6-pack of Labatt Blue here, and because they used to sell it at the liquor store on Hillhurst, and they don't have it anymore. And now Mitch is holding up a Labatt Blue.
I've had Labatt
Labatt.
Blue. I have not had.
Labatt
I
right
was
here.
not able to get it in Canada. Mitch is opening this tall boy. I'll while you're sipping that, I will talk about my own beer store
I also
experience.
just quickly will say the Arizona iced tea. I love Arizona iced tea, Wags.
Yeah.
That hard one sucked. It was horrible.
I don't know why I guess there's just so much profit to be had, but I don't know why all these seltzer, why all these like iced tea and juice brands are all doing a hard version now. Like I don't need like a hard seltzer Topo Chico, you know what I mean? But whatever.
So
anyway,
that just on the Arizona situation, you bought that at the beer store?
Yeah.
So that is a malt-based drink. The beer store is not allowed to sell anything that has vodka or anything like that. So if you're buying a seltzer, it has to be malt based for the beer store to sell it.
got it. It can't be like
Norm,
one
it's
of
funny you
those
say that.
those gin and tonics in a can. You
Can't sell.
Got it.
I did get one seltzer. It was an Infinite Minds Supersonic Puppy Dreams. It was pineapple, mango, orange creamsicle. And it was
Is that?
it was made in Canada. This is what it looks like. That's the can right there.
Oh yeah, that sounds fun.
It was made in Canada. I thought that it was just like a juicy beer. You know what I mean? I thought it was like a juicy beer, but it was a seltzer, and it was good. It was a good seltzer.
Yeah.
This Labatt this just like reminds me of a college beer. It is a good beer. Labatt is good.
That's basically what it is, and also like they used to make Labatt Crystal, which I have under pretty good knowledge was just Labatt Blue with a different label on it.
Great. Love that.
And Labatt Blue is actually called Labatt Blue because it differentiated. There was a beer that Molson made called Molson Stock, which was also a blue label. So when they ordered Labatt Blue, it was the blue bottle they would just call. Blue came probably from immigrants who couldn't say Labatt, they were probably just like the blue one.
Right,
You know?
sure, yeah.
And then they changed the name to Labatt
Yeah.
Blue.
What about Pabst? Is it Pabst a Canadian beer or no?
No,
don't think so.
it's a U.S. beer that Sleeman bought the rights to and now distributes it in Canada.
It
It's a
was
strong-
founded
it's
in
right
Wisconsin.
on the-
PBR.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a U.S.
Oh.
beer. And Schlitz.
It-
Schlitz used to be like the number one beer, and I think North America. And
Yeah.
then like they changed the recipe once, and it completely tanked.
I remember Schlitz being malt liquor.
Yeah.
Maybe they also made a malt liquor, but that's my memory. I remember thinking like Schlitz and like Mickey's and like, those are like
yeah.
the same
Old
sort
English.
of category. Yeah, Old English. Yeah. Mitch, so this is the PBR you're opening.
The PBR I'm opening, it says strong beer on it. It's 5.9%.
Ooh.
Schlitz also from Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin, big beer
They
and cheese
love
town.
beer there. Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of Germans there.
Yeah, totally.
You know what? Having this Pabst after the Labatt, a much better beer. I like the Labatt way more than the PB.
I mean, PBR is kind of like a cheap beer, I think, is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I think of that in the same category as like a natural ice, just like kind of like a shitty or a Keystone. That's like the cheap beer that you could get. And then because the label is cool and it has a little bit of kitsch appeal, I think you started seeing it to show up in like cool bars or whatever. But so
Labatt, much better beer.
Yeah.
So I've had Labatt before. On my experience of the beer store, I went to one that was inside, that was in the Toronto city limits on Spadina.
Yeah.
And I walked over there, and this was my last night in Toronto, and I was like, I just got it for completion of stake. We're going to talk to the beer store. I got to see what the beer store is like. I'd already been inside an LCBO and a wine store at that point.
The wine rack you went to.
The wine, yeah, whatever it's called, the wine rack,
Yep.
yeah. And I went in there, and I took a picture of the exterior, and then I went inside, and I was like, oh, there's a little conveyor belt like in Strange Brew, and I took a little photograph of the interior, and then the manager looked at me and said, sir, it's against regulations to take photographs in the beer store. I fucking got busted. I got in trouble. So I go over to this
Wow,
guy.
you're just getting busted left and right this fucking week, huh?
Yeah, he said it, and he didn't know that he was like near the cashier microphone, and then he heard it from the back.
So I go over and I talk to this guy, and I was like, oh man, I didn't realize that. He was like, yeah, if you want to take a picture in the beer store, you need to get permission from every single beer store.
No, that's bullshit.
I was like, all right, well, whatever. I think the guy just like thought he was in the photo and didn't want to be photographed. So I showed him. I was like, hey, I'm just going to show you for your own peace of mind that I'm going to delete this photo. I won't take another photo. He's like, fine. I went and I got a single can of Molson, a tall boy of Molson, and I went out and I bought it. Canadian Molson, yeah.
Molson Canadian.
Molson Canadian, yeah. And I went up there, and by the way, just the interior, it basically is just like a very bare bones liquor store. It's just, you're just walking around, there's just cans of beers on shelf, there's a little bit in the cold case, but there's a lot of just room temperature cases just kind of sitting there.
There used to be nothing out front. It was just you go to a register and you'd order what you want, and it would just come out on the roller.
I go up to the guy, and then while I'm checking out, I'm like, sorry about that. I'm from America. We don't have the beer store in America. And so I just wanted to see what it was like. I just know it from the movie Strange Brew. And once I said Strange Brew, the dude lit up. He was so excited to talk about Strange Brew.
So
Like,
simple.
oh, yeah, Strange Brew. Yeah, it's like the beer store in Strange Brew. He's like talking about, he's like, you go to the ones out in the exurbs. That's where you got the real beer stores.
Yeah,
this one's like a little small one. Yeah. But it was a very strange experience. They do have the giant conveyor belt, which is a thing I know from Strange Brew, and which is a thing they all have.
Yeah, the
rollers. The rollers. And this is the thing that you were talking about a little bit earlier, which was the empties are a huge thing.
Yeah.
It seems like they have a pretty good actual like sort of recycling and reuse program there, where people will bring in their empties, they'll get some sort of redemption value from it, and then things aren't just like being thrown in onto the sidewalk or into the trash.
Right. I mean, the bottles are reused, right?
Yeah.
So like obviously we just took it, and you sort brown from green from white, and they go on big pallets and they go back on the truck, and the breweries kind of deal with that. And as you can imagine, the grossest things in the world are in those boxes. Like people would come with, hundreds of cases of empty beer that have been sitting in
cigarette
garages.
butts in them and stuff.
Some people are just absolute pigs.
Animals.
Loose bottles and bags with chicken wings and garbage, and
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
It's one of the what was really great about the job is because it was like the only kind of place in town. You could be openly rude, and it wouldn't really make a difference. So
right, there's no the customer can't take their business elsewhere.
No, they have to come here. I mean, there's no other option. But there's a lot of times where people would bring a case of beer that had just so much garbage in it. We would just like push it back and be like, sorry, you need to participate in society to be able to do this.
Yeah.
It's a recycling program, not a garbage dump. It was
Norm.
Go ahead.
Sparky said that he returns his cans every 2 years to the beer store.
Oh my
That's what he
God.
said.
Every 2 years.
Yeah, but that's fine. Like honestly, when people came and they had like garbage bags of cans and they just wrote 100 or 200 on the bag, I'd be like, I believe you. I'd throw it in the thing and be like, you're good to go. Here you go. Here's $20. It's 10 cents a can. Just if you tell us the number, we're gonna, if they just melt that metal down. The glass is the hard part because you put your hand in a case in a broken bottle and you cut your hand.
Yeah, that's a whole
Jesus.
thing.
Yeah, it was very.
By the way, my beer store did not care. I was filming Sparky telling me the history of it. I cut right before he growled at his beer, which is the best part. But he was giving me a history of the beer store, and I was just walking around with my camera filming everything. They did not care at all. They were very open to me filming in there. Wise, they didn't care. In fact, at the checkout, the guy at the checkout was talking about how much he hated Joker 2, and he asked me what I thought of Joker 2.
Wow, had you seen it yet at that point?
I had seen it, and I told him it wasn't good. He's like, it was a fucking musical, man. I can't believe it was a musical. He was so pissed it was a musical.
Yeah. That was a big misdirect, though. They really did not in the marketing tell you that it was a musical, which they'll do sometimes, but there's something about that movie and its fan base. Like, that's a little bit of a big
cracking
switch.
a third beer.
Yeah,
I have a lot of beers.
I'm starting to think Mitch is pre-gaming to hang out with my guests.
It seems like your alibi is crumbling, Mitch. I'm not gonna go drinking with my buddy. There's a cleaning lady coming. Cracks his
3
third
years
beer.
later.
This is from Mascot Brewery. You know Mascot Brewery?
Don't know it. No.
It's in Toronto. It's a watermelon beet sour.
That's fun.
That's fun.
do like a sour, yeah.
Saisons and sours became very popular in Toronto after I'd left.
I love them.
Yeah, they're very fun. But there's a ton of like microbreweries kind of blew up in Toronto too.
Yeah.
Bellwood's Brewery and all these other little spots that are really, really great. Much better than when I first started, because when I first started at the beer store, I mean, there wasn't a ton of microbrews. People just drank Molson Canadian, Labatt Blue, variations of, there's just Molson loyalists, there's Labatt loyalists, and then there was obviously the percentage of people who drink Sleeman beer, and I think Sleeman has gone. So basically, Labatt owns 49%, Molson owns 49%, and 2% belongs to Sleeman. So if you walk into a beer store in like the early 2000s, they renovated them all. So they went from the old blue and orange to yellow and black, and they added a display wall for the first time where you could grab the beer yourself off of rollers. Right. Gotta have those rollers in there. Which was a big change, but half of the wall, the wall itself had to be accurate to the ownership percentage. So there was one wall was Labatt, one wall was Molson, and in the top corner there was a little Sleeman you could get if you want
a little sliver.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic beer, and also you can taste the beet in it. But it's a great sour beer. Great, good. Hats off to Mascot Brewery. It's good.
It's a lot of fun.
If you see if there's beet in it, is it red?
Let me find out.
Looks like Mitch froze.
Looks like Mitch is drunk and is falling off the couch.
Wait, am I okay?
Mid-sip for audio listeners.
Here.
You'll be okay.
It is slight. It's a little red tinge.
Did you pour it into your Diet
Did you pour
Coke?
it into a Diet Coke? What is going on there?
I had no cup. Look, I'm feeling
You
so much
don't
better.
have a
Your
I'm
microphone's in the only cup you have.
I know. There's my microphone is in a cup.
Yes,
Wait, the
Mitch's
one
mic stand
cup
is a
you
cup.
have.
I'm feeling Wags. I'm not as mad at you anymore. I'm feeling pretty good.
Wow,
this one is
okay.
pretty. This is a nice sour. I like it. I
Yeah,
got
you're
another
actually-
sour too.
That's not even a mic. You're just speaking into a breathalyzer.
Did you
I got
experience
this other.
Mitch
I got
has
this
another
other
sour.
Sucker Punch from Double Trouble Brewery, which is also a local brewery. I'm
These
gonna try
all
this one.
look
Go
like
ahead, Wise, sorry.
candy. Why
They
did-
really
do.
do. Mitch is going to open that up. While you were, it seemed like you were touching on this, but this is what I worry is a hazard of working in an establishment that's business is alcohol.
Right.
Did that lead you drinking more? Or did you were you getting beer at a discount or free beer and you ended up kind of just indulging in the product a little bit high on your own supply?
Yeah, I think when I first started working there after I became of age.
Yeah.
I was like,
which is 18, correct?
I was 18, but then
19.
I couldn't buy. I mean, I was still drinking with friends, but I wasn't physically.
Is the drinking age
19 is the legal age.
19, okay.
It's 18 in Quebec. So, I kind of really
Oh.
got into the culture of beer when I was really young, which kind of put me in a weird situation and I had to get my act together. I think where I took advantage of that situation is when I worked at the Kegs and Cases store.
Okay.
Because I was working with bars and restaurants and me and my old sketch comedy partner, Cole Osborne, who we worked at the store together, we basically did not buy drinks at bars, because we worked with all the.
You just supplied them, so yeah.
Yeah, we were friendly with them, and there's if you were a bar we liked,
yeah.
By the time you were done paying, the beer was in your car, and then they would come and bring food and and all that snacks. And when we would show up to that bar, they'd be like, "Oh, the boys are here." So we didn't really pay for drinks around town, and we took advantage of that, definitely. Yeah. But there is the bar business in Canada is pretty. Well, I think the bar business anywhere is very shady.
I'm sure, yeah.
So we did deal with a lot of shady characters, and I think they knew that they could trust us to not really rat them out. So that was kind of the only time I was but when I first got there, I tried basically every beer.
Wow.
That they sold. And at the time it was in the 200s,
Yeah.
Hey, Norm, I just want to say you reminded me, you said the keg.
Oh yeah.
And I want to say happy Canadian Thanksgiving. Do you still celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving down there in the States?
I do. We used to do a big thing, and we really got to get back to it. All the expats that are down here. There was a couple times where we'd always have a Canadian Thanksgiving hang. And when I first moved here, it was great. We had Deb DiGiovanni, who's a great stand-up who was down here, and Levi McDougall, who was working on Conan, and all the Canadians would kind of get together. I think we went to the Black Cat and had a big dinner one time, and I think we went to El Compadre to one time to do a Canadian Thanksgiving thing. Then it kind of got into a smaller thing, Anessa Frantowski and Alana and our little Canadian crew. We would have a little Canadian Thanksgiving thing. I don't think we make a big to do, but certainly when I first moved here, I almost my Canadiana-isms kind of I think I just was homesick. So we really took advantage of Canadian holidays and the Canadian crew here is quite thick. I mean, we stick together pretty well.
There's a lot of Canadians down in LA for sure. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing that makes me crazy about Canada in general. Just to get off you mentioned Russell Peters.
Yes.
And there's so much nostalgia in Canada about the Canadian legend comedians of the past. And there's so much talk about Dan Aykroyd and Jim Carrey and Mike Myers. And I just wanted to shake the Canadian entertainment industry to be there's probably more Canadian success stories now here in the States than has ever been in terms of numbers of how many people have found success here in popularity, especially this generation, Nathan Fielder and Lauren Ash and all these super successful Canadians.
Well, and also
Alana, me.
even a Seth Rogen, it's there's a Ryan Reynolds. There's a lot of very successful,
and then people who
Canadian
are behind
actors.
I like working with Katie Crown and Graham Wagner, who are part of the Laugh Sabbath scene in Toronto. They're all doing very well down here, and sometimes I'm just it doesn't seem like there's a lot of acknowledgement of course there's Tat Maslany, who's won an Emmy and is incredibly talented, but is of that kind of generation of the Toronto scene from 2005 to 2010, you know, and I just am like confused how there isn't more acknowledgement from Canada about like some of the Canadians that are down here that are just killing it.
That's really interesting that's because I think there's certainly awareness in the U.S. of like, oh yeah, these great, like it's interesting that there seems to be less of that in Toronto itself.
I just think Canada a lot of the times, the entertainment industry there has really took a hit. It's coming back now. Obviously, Mitch is there and there's production is back, but the big
Hollywood North, they're calling it.
Well, it's back. I mean, SARS, was what really killed it. And what year was that? 2002.
Yeah.
SARS?
2000s?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
SARS, blast from the past. I haven't thought about SARS.
Man, SARS is like a nice little after COVID.
I remember
love
SARS.
Give me SARS.
SARS is
Pro
great.
SARS.
2003.
I'm pro SARS.
So,
by the way, Norma. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to
No
say.
one was saying there's no SARS.
There's no
SARS.
SARS.
Isn't real.
That's
No one
not-
was like just denying SARS.
But anyway, I feel like it's certainly coming
Those are the
back.
days.
But in terms of like making Canada doesn't make that many TV shows anymore. They make about like three or four TV shows they make a year, and I think go ahead.
Twisted Metal.
Yeah, but that's an American production.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I think you'd think that after Schitt's Creek.
Right, there'd
Yeah.
be more Canadian originals. It'd be like, hey, this could be something that could be popular here, and that maybe it's like a Trailer Park Boys where it's kind of like mostly popular in Canada, or maybe it's like a Schitt's Creek that has crossover appeal and gets popular.
Trailer Park Boys, I think, did well here too.
Oh, it did. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think Letterkenny is another show that did well here.
I do know Letterkenny.
There's a cast member from Letterkenny on Twisted Metal with me. A great guy,
yeah.
Tyler.
There's a video. I saw a video of the Trailer Park Boys on stage with Rush while they were playing YYZ in Halifax. I was like, this fucking rocks.
Jesus. That is very Canadian. I just want to say I'm going to celebrate my first Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday, Norm. I'm going to go to the Keg Haunted Mansion location
Oh, we were just talking about that.
and get Thanksgiving dinner there. I heard you guys talking about it. I was going to save this for this moment, but I'm going to the Keg.
I said, hey, don't worry, Mitch isn't listening. We got to check out the Keg Mansion. It is. I don't know too much about the haunted stories. I do know that there was a tunnel underneath the Keg Mansion that went to the Children's Hospital because like John Shaw or whatever his name was, who was part of that thing, had a very ill son, so they built a tunnel underneath it. And I did go to Humber College South Campus, which used to be a mental institution, which is also haunted.
Oh my God, yeah.
There was staff there that said that they would like walk by a classroom and all the desks and chairs would be there. And when they would walk back, all the chairs and tables would be stacked.
Whoa.
And they were the only ones in the building, which seems very
That's
creepy.
spooky as fucking hell. Yeah.
Classic.
Hey,
ghost
Wags.
stuff. Yeah.
We're getting close to All Hallows Eve. Scary stuff. This was okay. This was also pretty good. It had like a strong beer taste at the end, but also pretty good. Sucker Punch, the red raspberry sour. But I'm gonna.
That does look like a sour straws
It does.
candy wrapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
Red
I
and
saved
green
the best
can.
I saved the best for last. Actually, there's two things I want to taste, but I got the Molson Canadian Wags, which you had.
Are you gonna
that's fun.
finish? Are you're gonna like? Are you gonna put these like refridge these beers? Like, what's the plan? Are you just gonna have like a bunch of like 3/4 full beers you're gonna pour down the sink?
Mike is
No,
just
Mike
sitting
is
off
coming
camera.
at 4. He's gonna finish them with me.
So Mike is 10 minutes late.
No, I'm joking. This is I went to the Wayne Gretzky's. This is
Winery.
you can't get this. Yeah, the vineyard, the Wayne, the winery, the Wayne, and he has a distillery there too. But you can't get this in a beer store, Wags. But this is butter pecan Canadian cream liquor.
How fun is
And
that?
I'm gonna take a taste of this. I told you how the tastings work there, Wags, right? At the Wayne Gretzky, the distillery.
Yeah,
the
I think.
vineyard.
But give me a refresher on how it worked.
They pour they pour your sample onto the counter and then they hit it in your mouth with a hockey stick. Which is
Oh,
kinda
right,
crazy.
right, yeah, that's right. I remember.
There used to
now.
be the Wayne Gretzky's restaurant that was attached to the Second City location there at Blue Jays Way, right by the Rogers Center.
Wow.
Yes, and I saw Walter Gretzky walk out of there once.
Whoa.
But they did have like Gretzky's.
That's his dad, yeah.
Yeah. There was like Gretzky's mom's world famous meatloaf and all that stuff in there. It was a lot of fun. And when you went to the bathroom and they'd play like Wayne Gretzky would narrate like all of his records while you were going to the bathroom. It's always like, and of course I have that many assists, and you're like, all right, I just got to take a piss here.
I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and it is crazy how good he was. I'm gonna take a sip of this, Wags. Here we go.
It looks like a wine bottle.
It really does. Mitch is taking a swig. The Wayne Gretzky thing that always blows my mind, the stat is just in terms of how dominant he was, which is because the way, and I don't really know hockey, but my understanding is that like scoring a goal and having an assist, those both give you points, right?
A point, yeah.
Yeah. So if you took out all of the goals that Gretzky ever made, like you take those away and you just use the assists that he has
more assists than anyone has points.
He has more assists than anyone else has points is the takeaway. So he also has the most points. He also has the most
a great one.
Yep.
I articulate that so poorly, but it's just one of those staggering records.
I just want to say this is so fucking good.
Wow.
Well, you also just went from drinking like watermelon fizz to drinking like
maple
This
syrup.
is a cream liquor.
Wow.
A butter pecan Canadian cream liquor. It's so good. If you put this in a hockey before a hockey.
In a coffee.
Coffee. If you dump that on a ball sack, then
if you put this in a coffee before a CFL game or a Leafs game or a Bills game, I guess they go to the Bills games.
Yep.
You would absolutely love this. This is so delicious.
The thing that Marissa Melnick, Mars, who lives in Toronto and was helping us out up there, told me about that I was not able to find at the LCBO is ice wine.
Ice wine.
Ice wine is a Canadian thing. Mitch, you did get some ice wine, or you had some of it previously?
It was hit into my mouth by a hockey stick at the Wayne Gretzky. We tried some ice wine there. And you know what? I loved it. People were like,
where was that?
You should.
Was that in the Niagara on the Lake area with the winery area?
Yeah. Yep. Niagara on the Lake. People were like, oh, you should go to I know there was a Matty Matheson restaurant. I should have gone to like a Parm restaurant. I should have gone to there. But people were like, there were much better vineyards around there. But I loved the Wayne Gretzky vineyard was great.
Something about that. It's like going to Michael Jordan's steakhouse. It's like, yeah, I know there are better steakhouses in Chicago, but there's something fun about this, the celebrity factor.
This is fucking delicious on top.
I just want to talk about the keg real quick because we're not reviewing the keg this month, but the keg is like a sit-down chain.
Yep.
And it is the same company as Harvey's and Swiss Chalet. It is the company is called Recipe Unlimited.
Is it across Canada? It is, right?
It is, yeah. But are you a fan of the keg at all?
Yeah, I like the keg. Obviously, it's like it's I would say a step down from a Ruth Chris Steakhouse, but I like
maybe a step up from like a TGI Fridays.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And they keg size things. So,
I love that.
So if you get like a keg Caesar, but you keg size it, it's like a Caesar and a half.
And you're saying Caesar, you're meaning the drink, not the salad.
Caesar is it's a Bloody Mary, but instead of tomato juice, it's clam and tomato juice.
Yeah.
I got a Caesar on the flight home from Toronto just as because they had them on Air Canada. I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Can I go out on a limb here and say a Caesar better than a Bloody Mary?
By a ton.
Mitch, I agree with you. I think it's a lot more fun.
Not even close. The keg, I really like their double baked potato. Is quite good. I get the baseball steak there, which is like a high sirloin, which is quite good. Yeah,
from Training Day, the Pacific Dining Cart used to have a baseball steak.
That's right.
From Training Day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the baseball steak, they from the other side of the room, the guy throws it into your mouth. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, Wags, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
There's another waiter there with a glove behind your mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to try the steaks at David Cohn's restaurant. David Cohn just whips a piece of meat at your face.
Norm, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think Canadians are nice? Do you believe the myth that Canadians are nice?
The myth.
No, I believe that they're polite, but they are quite passive aggressive.
Yes, I think it's the difference between polite and nice.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
When I moved to New York, I was living there briefly, and there's this idea that New Yorkers are rude, But I always found that they're not really rude. They're actually quite nice. They're just brash.
Yes.
You know, a New Yorker, you try to park a car, they honk at you, and you'd be like, "Hey, what the fuck you trying to do here?" I was like, "Oh, sorry, I can't fit in the spot." They go, "Oh, I'll guide you in." They're very helpful. Canadians will be like, "Hey, sorry there, bud. What are you trying to do?" It's like, "Oh, I'm trying to park the car." And you're like, "Well, good luck with that, you fucking idiot," and leave. You're like, "Oh, God." I think that's more accurate. There is
interesting
pleasantries in I think it's a Commonwealth thing, you know. There's a certain amount of like etiquette that Canadians get from the Brits that we like to, still stand behind for some reason. But it's I guess it depends on where you are too, right? Like Canada's if you're in Vancouver and you're in Montreal, they're very different vibes. I mean, and Toronto is a very different vibe from those cities too. And then there's like, if you go to like the smaller parts, like New Brunswick, for example. New Brunswick is another province that had a similar system where there was beer stores, kind of.
Okay.
It wasn't as regulated the same. New Brunswick also the only actual bilingual province because Quebec is primarily French.
Right.
New Brunswick is kind of split down the middle. And also, if you're from New Brunswick, you root for the Boston Bruins. So
hey, how about that?
There you go.
Hell yeah, which the Leafs fans hate.
Right.
When I'm in Hamilton, the people in Hamilton are very down to earth, working class, nice. They're my type of people.
Yeah,
Toronto's
Newfoundland
a little
too.
different.
You'd love people from Newfoundland. East Coasters, I think, are right up your alley.
Yeah, Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto.
Different. You know, I said that I was like, they're not nice. They're but I've met a lot of great people here. Sparky being one of them. Wags. I like the Toronto people.
Well,
but I do think that
this is the
thing
problem.
of them being nice is stupid.
All of Canada resents Toronto because Toronto is the major city.
It's Hogtown.
It's Hogtown.
Yeah.
it's the New York of Canada.
Right.
So a lot of other big cities resent Toronto for that. And Toronto has a little man syndrome because it wants to be a big U.S. city.
Sure.
And it's just not.
Yeah.
It's roughly, if not more than Chicago population-wise. But, Toronto at times is not a serious city, it certainly doesn't have the weight of a U.S. city in terms of like, if you're speaking on the entertainment business, it's the entertainment capital of Canada. So you got to give it that. But there is this idea where it wants to be like New York, and that's just never going to happen.
We gotta wrap things up in a second. Mitch,
I'm gonna say this, Wags. I'm gonna just say one thing here. I'm gonna toast Toronto.
That's like the
Toronto
fifth beer that he's opened.
Also, your cleaning lady's really late.
Is your cleaning lady just coming for the empties?
This is actually the sixth beer that I've opened. To Toronto.
He sneakily opened one.
Two of them were mostly Canadians.
The cleaning lady said she was coming before. She has not come yet. I told her to just walk in.
This is the start of a porno. It's the Canadian porno. You crushing most of Canadians. Come on in.
The cleaning lady's
I'm just sipping on a ball sack coffee with heavy cream.
We're friends. We're just friends, and we are friends. To Toronto, a city I've grown to love, Wags.
Wow.
And if there's another season, I'd love to be back up here. I also love New Orleans, but I would be just as happy here too. I like Toronto quite a bit. But cheers to Toronto and cheers to Canada for this month. That's all.
Wow, how about that? Norma, any other thoughts on the beer store while we're wrapping things up? And also, you're wearing a lovely Toronto Raptors jacket.
Yep.
How you feel about the Raps this season?
Yeah, I feel like it's a great rebuild year. I hope we lose some games and get another big pick. I think the Toronto's basketball. I think all small market NBA teams are trying to get in a situation where they're one of the top teams in the East or West,
right?
Who can finally convince a free agent star to come down. And I mean, the Kawhi Leonard thing was a perfect example. I think we're at least 3 or 4 years away from being in a position to get an opportunity where a big free agent would be willing to come to make a run.
Do you have a favorite? Well, because the other thing is that we're seeing more and more Canadian NBA stars.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the biggest, but I mean, there's a number of like RJ Barrett now on the Raptors is Canadian.
Yes.
I feel like there's going to be a Canadian superstar at some point. There's going to be like the number one pick in the draft is going to be a Canadian prospect.
Yeah.
And maybe their ultimate goal is to come play for the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean that happened with RJ.
Yeah.
And we've had some Canadian. Corey Joseph was Canadian, and I don't know if I wouldn't consider Jamal Murray to be in that superstar category.
Sure.
Would Shai want to come and play for the Raptors at some point? That would be great. I mean, which is really kind of, I got really lucky because I moved here and I started watching the Clippers because I could afford the tickets. and then the Raptors situation kind of crumbled, and Kawhi, Serge Ibaka, Norm Powell is here. And Shai Alexander was Canadian, and I could really root for him. And obviously, it would be great if he, decides one day to go to Canada. But Team Canada is like Edie too.
Zach Edie. Yeah.
He's another Canadian guy. I think we're a few years away from that. It would be fantastic. Obviously, if you watch the
Jimmy wants to leave. Jimmy just got up.
There you go. If you watch the Olympics, that was kind of a disappointment. I think Jamal Murray was hurt, but that's another example. I think we're a couple of stars away. It would be great to be like the Canadian Wemby is going to come in.
Yes, right.
But I think that is, possible. But I'm totally happy with the team right now. It's great to see RJ Barrett playing on the Raptors.
Hey, you got a championship, an NBA championship in 2019. Yes. How great is that?
Oh my goodness, no regrets there. I love that team.
What an amazing finals that was.
Yeah, it felt so great. I was didn't attend that game.
Pre-bubble.
It was pre-bubble, yeah.
Pre-bubble.
Counts. Me and Alana went to Vegas and got married, and we got married the day before that game against the Sixers.
Wow.
And we watched that game in the main suite at the Mandalay Bay, and everyone that was like hanging out was watching that game. And when Kawhi's shot hit, I stood up and I said, "This is the best day of my life." And someone said, "You got married yesterday." She still holds that against me.
That's that for people who aren't NBA fans, who aren't sportos. It's like one of those crazy moments where if that shot goes in or doesn't go in, it completely changes the fate of two different franchises.
Yes,
the ball bounces on the rim multiple times and then goes in. The Toronto Raptors win the game, win the series, and then win the NBA championship.
Yep.
The Philadelphia 76ers, for the time, had Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons, along with Joel Embiid. Team completely collapses. Now it's only Joel Embiid there. Jimmy Butler goes to play for the Heat. Ben Simmons' career is in shambles from that point on. It's crazy.
They still had to go on and beat the Bucks.
They still had to go on and beat the Bucks
Warriors.
and the Warriors. Yeah, so it wasn't like this was the game that won them. It was just like one of those crazy sports circumstances, though, that completely, if that doesn't happen, who knows what the future is.
And also the timing was perfect. This is why it's insane they weren't able to run it back, because Kyle Lowry was, still a great player,
right?
And Marc Gasol was still a great player.
Yeah, they got him at that the very end. They got
Serge
Marc
Ibaka
Gasol,
was great. Kawhi Leonard was great.
You got bubbled.
Yeah, we got bubbled big time.
The NBA had other ideas.
Yeah,
as did the U.S. government.
I gotta say
SARS. This. I miss SARS too.
Yeah,
we knew that one was real. Molson Canadian. Molson Canadian, a good beer. I like it as well.
That's what I drank by myself in my hotel room on the last night in Toronto after going to the beer store. And let me tell you, it did hit the spot. It was a good beer.
It was the number one beer in Ontario for the longest time. It was not the number one in the U.S. Labatt Blue had that title for a long time.
Wow.
But it is in Canada. You can only have two of it's like Bell Media, Rogers Media, red versus blue, and basically everything. Canadians and Leafs, red versus blue. It's Canadian versus Labatt, red versus. Actually, the rivalry in the NHL between the Montreal Canadiens and the Quebec Nordiques is basically that rivalry stems from the breweries, because Molson owned the Montreal Canadiens and Carling O'Keefe owned the Quebec Nordiques. So that's their rivalry is based off the brewery rivalry.
That's wild.
Yep.
Something like that for the the Carolina Hurricanes or the Tampa Bay, whatever the fuck, what are they called?
The Lightning?
The Lightning, yeah.
Tampa Bay, whatever the fuck. That's a great alternate jersey. Who the fuck is this guy? Arrow pointing up.
Wags, we should have gotten you to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm drunk. How am I supposed to get on a treadmill?
It'll be the best workout of your life.
Wait, are you going on a treadmill? Are you drinking, or is your cleaning lady happening? What is going on?
The cleaning lady is supposed to come.
You're gonna go to the gym. You're gonna get some steps in while the cleaning lady is working on your hotel room. on your little
She's
suite.
probably heard this bullshit outside the door.
So-
and is afraid to come in.
I think
You're gonna get your steps in walking on a line to make sure that you can walk straight.
do a slow speed and a little bit of an incline, so you don't lose your
Wags,
balance.
Bring the beers with you.
You don't got to worry about that speed. It's going to be slow no matter what.
Norm, thanks so much for joining us. Norm Sousa. Anything you want to plug? And again, just thanks so much for making time for us.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Yeah, Fox NFL Sunday. If you're watching, if you're in Canada and you're watching the CTV or TSN feed and you're getting the CBA, just switch over to Fox. Watch the pregame. It's a Super Bowl year for us, so we're looking forward to that Super Bowl in New Orleans.
You have a lot of great bits on that. I see him circulating all the time. Mitch has been in some of those.
Yeah,
bits.
Mitch played Santa Claus in one. You right? That was not the only one you did, maybe.
That is the only. What the fuck?
Yeah, you'll be back
there, man.
You'll be back.
Norm, my one of my castmates, John O. Wilson, super funny guy, also was
love John O.
Was in.
He did a great piece for me last year. Yeah, he's a fantastic
super
actor.
funny.
He's so funny.
I gotta meet John O up there after our live shows. A lovely man, very very nice.
So funny.
Yeah.
Super funny, dude. Yeah, you're killing it, dude. I'm always tuning in to see what sketches are going on or just looking online and stuff like that. And they're always hilarious.
Honestly,
we love you.
Thanks, guys. And
I love
honestly,
you,
I'm
buddy.
having a blast on our text thread. And, you guys have been so great to me in Atlanta over the years. And it's always great to see you guys.
You know what Alana told us? She was like, she was talking about DMs from Doughboys fans. She was like, of course I get some people who are just like being creepy freaks, but she also gets a bunch of people who are just like, we love Norm. Where's Norm?
Oh, yeah.
They love Norm. The
love
Doughboys
Norm.
fans love Norm.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
I like to fly under the radar. I like to continue to be. Oh, there are the cleaning ladies
Okay,
here.
All right, we're gonna wrap things up.
You can come in. Hey, Mike.
There we go.
Mike is here. I gotta go.
All right, great. That's
Bye,
the
Mitch.
prestige. Bye, everyone. Thanks for doing this, Norm. Yeah. No, I can hear the headphones are working for me.
Oh, hey, Mitch says he has a heart out at 4.
Mitch says he has a heart out at 4. It's the first time hearing of this.
Yeah,
He's fucking full of shit.
probably.
You know, he was earlier today, he was texting me. He's like, Micus is in town. And I know that he's just trying to get out of the record early because he wants to hang out with Micus. That's exactly what's going on. So don't I just wish he'd just say that. Just say like, hey, I want to hang out with Mike. Don't just invent a heart out of nowhere. Because he told me he and Micus have tickets to go see Megalopolis. He wants to show Megalopolis to Micus because in the movie, Aubrey Plaza's character is named Wow Platinum. And of course, on the Doughboys, we're always saying wow. And if you get 5 forks, you end up in the Platinum Plate Club. So, Mitch has this crazy idea that Francis Ford Coppola is a Doughboys fan and included as an Easter egg, and he wants to prove it to Micus.
No, that would make sense.
Yeah, it would make sense because, Mitch and I are a Coppola goofballs.
Doughboys,